Cameron Miller.
I'm delighted to meet you, Cameron.
Nice to meet you too.
And I'm Katherine Paterson.
Yeah. Okay, so have you ever participated in anything like this author extravaganza before?
Yes,
Yeah.
for 40 years or more.
You've been recognized and honored in many ways. Does it ever get old?
Well, it never gets old to know that people love your books. You know, what more do you want? It's just to know that people love your books.
How do you stay humble through the tremendous success that you've had?
How do I stay humble? I have these friends who keep me humble. In fact, I had this very good friend in Tacoma Park, Maryland, where I lived when I began to win awards. And so she was in charge of keeping me humble. And she kept me humble in Maryland and Virginia. But when I moved to Vermont, she wrote to another friend up there and she said, Vermont's too far, it's your job. And I thought Grace had carried it a little bit too far because the night I was missing from our little art class, people said, where is she? And she said, well, she's in Washington being made a national embarrassment. I mean natural embarrassment. This is when I went to Washington to become the national ambassador of Young People's Literature. So I thought Grace had carried it a little too far. But, you know, still it keeps me where I ought to be. And then I had 4 children. That's a big help.
Oh, yeah. Leading me into my next question, why do you write for children instead of adults?
Well, when I first started writing, I didn't know who I wrote for. And I tried this and I tried that. And there was a lady in the church in Tacoma Park who said she was taking a writing class and did I want to go because she knew I was trying. And so I thought, great. And we took this course and I wrote every week. And I finally sold one short story, and the little magazine that published it died the next month. And I sold one poem, and the little magazine that bought it died before it published it. And that was 7 years. And then she said, do you want to take a course on writing for children? And I said, sure, you know. And so I began writing my first novel in that class. And then I feel very fortunate that I found an audience that likes what I like.
How do you incorporate your religion into your books?
I don't think you incorporate. I think you are who you are. And if it comes out that I love God and I'm grateful for His grace, then that's good. If you don't see that when you read the book, then you don't see it when you read the book.
My favorite book that you've written is The Master Puppeteer. What was your inspiration for it, and how do you want people to perceive it?
Well, I'll start with the last question, and that is, I don't think it's up to me to decide how people should perceive my books. I think that's up to each reader, and each reader has the option of loving this book or hating this book, of learning something from this book or deciding not to learn anything from this book. And I can't control that. That's the reader's prerogative. But I started writing it because I'd written these 2 books set in 12th century Japan, and they were good books, but they weren't selling in big numbers. And so I thought, I don't have any idea for a book. I should ask my children. And they said, we want a mystery story. And I said, well, I love mystery stories, but I know what kind of brain it takes to plot a mystery story. And I said, do you think somebody who's been beaten at chess by a 6-year-old has the brains to write a mystery story? And they agreed that their sister had been beating me at chess since she was 6. So I said, well, I will try to write an adventure story and put it in as much suspense as I can. And so I wrote The Master Puppeteer, and I was very thrilled because the Mystery Writers of America gave it a special award. And I didn't even know I'd written a mystery story. But I figure if the Mystery Writers of America think I've written a mystery story, I have written a mystery story.
Nice. Okay, so your book, The Great Gilly Hawkins, is being made into a movie. How are you involved in that process?
Well, I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And actually my 2 sons, one son wrote the script, and both of them are involved in the production. And that's the only way, apparently, you can make sure that the movie is going to resemble your book. And I must say, I have seen 2 cuts of the movie, and it's going to be great. We have a wonderful cast, and they all participated in the movie for very low salaries, and it was just a wonderful experience for me.
How do you think reading and writing mold personalities?
I know just from my own personal experience how much I've been influenced by what I've read. And I know it's made me a better person, because it's not only helped me understand how I feel myself about a lot of things, but helps me to be more empathetic with other people. It's a book is the only place where you can eavesdrop on somebody else's soul, right? And you can't do that in a movie or any other place. And so, in many ways, we know characters in books better than we know our own families, because they've allowed us inside themselves.
I like that answer. In Perry, we have several students who are into creative writing, and they post short stories on websites and stuff. Do you have any advice for the aspiring authors?
Well, the advice I would give, and it's because that's the way I learned, is by reading. I cannot remember when I learned how to read. I mean, it was as natural to me as talking, which came very naturally to me in 2 languages. So I read and I read and I read, and of course we moved a lot, so a lot of times the only friends I had were in books. And I think by reading a lot, I learned how the English language works, and I learned how you put together a good sentence. And I read a lot of bad stuff, so I learned what I didn't want to do. So I think that was my education. I took this course in writing, but it was mostly just exchanging ignorance among students, and I didn't really find it helpful, except that it made me realize in order to be a writer, you have to write. And that if you don't think you're working, nobody else is going to, because nobody believes you work if you work at home. So you have to take it seriously, or nobody else will. And you have to sit down and do it, or it won't get done. It doesn't get done by itself.
Is there anything else you'd like to say or address?
No, except that I'm just so pleased to be here. This is a gorgeous school, and as I can see, very wonderful staff and students.
Oh, thank you.
And we are just so grateful to be welcomed here.
We are grateful to have you.
Well, it's wonderful to be here.